We're in for a treat today. We've got one of my favorite people from Milly.
Vincent,
Yeah, David, how are you?
I'm doing great. I'm really happy to have you on.
Me too. I'm happy to share with you some talk about Chablis and the wine I do.
So I wanted to start. I think it's a great story. The first vintage that you did with Skurnik was 2010.
Yes.
And if I remember correctly, Michael and Harman visited and basically immediately fell in love with your Petit Chablis, which we're going to talk about at some length. Can you, I mean, if I remember the story, Harman was like, how much can we have? And you had to explain to him how small your domain was.
Exactly. The thing is that I met the first time Harman and Michael in Beaune, and that was in a domain where they do a tasting of red wine. And when I met them, they were just finishing the red and with Bonne Mare 2003. So you can imagine that the wine was huge, heavy, and I bring with me just a tank sample of Petit Chablis 11, and they test it, and that was so refreshing. And they looked to each other, and that's the time Armand asked me how many bottles I do of Petit Chablis, and they take the whole stock of this vintage, and that was the first time we start with Skurnik. So they really enjoy the Petit Chablis.
Well, and frankly, things have just gotten better from there, frankly. I mean, I feel like in the last 5 years, there's few growers that I think have taken as big a leap. I mean, part of it is your domain, part of it is the growth over time, but truthfully, and frankly, we're in for a treat tonight. I've got, you don't have an enormous lineup. And I think something that I love about the domain is your most important wine is your Petit Chablis and your Chablis. And in some cases that's the entry level wine, but here it's something pretty special. And I think at the moment, it's an appellation that's kind of come into its own the last particularly 5 years plus. I think there's more very good Petit Chablis than there ever is. And I really look forward to kind of diving into that one in a second. Can you give a little bit of your history? Because I know I love the story about your grandmother taking you into the vineyards when you were 8 years old. And I mean, your mother's side of the family, DeFay, is a historic winemaking family. Your father, your brother are winemakers, and you literally, your grandmother was taking you into the vineyards, at 8 years old, and it's kind of just gone from there. I mean, you're still very young, but can you?
It's going on, and we can't go back. But the thing is that it's a very good memories for me. I am lucky to be born in that world, and it's the story that it back. It's my great father that has started the activity of vine growing, winemaking, and then my great father was the first to start to develop the export and the style of vinification we have now, means with stainless steel tank that we use mainly. And then when you are a child and you go often in the vineyard, you see the trailer, the harvest time. It's really funny for a child, and finally you fall in love with that world, and you continue this way. And so we want to develop the domain. So when I've created my own domain, that was still on the idea of keeping the heritage, the thing that my family gave to me, and it's more than 150 years back now. So it's helpful for experience and to have a long story behind it.
It's a great history. So from the vineyards, and going to the vineyards every day with your grandmother, and then you in 2002 were in Beaune at studying enology, and that's where you met, if I'm not mistaken, one of your very good friends, Marc Bachelet, for the first time.
Yeah, we've been in we've been at the same time at the wine school in Beaune, and then it's after that when we have launched our domain at the same period, and we are very good friends now, and we talk often about the work, about wine, and it's important to share with some friends. And my very good friends are not only in Burgundy. There is numerous people that I met in Beaune that are now winemaker in the Jura region in the south of France, and I'm happy to share with them often how the season is going, tips about the winemaking, and it's important for the personal experience.
No, the reason I mentioned Mark, obviously I know you've got a wide range of friends across the wine world, including Burgundy. The reason I mentioned Mark is because obviously we work closely with Mark and Alex, his brother, and you guys started the same year in 2005, your domains, or right about that moment. So there's a lot of synergy in some ways between the development, you know, and obviously I know even one of your wines, which unfortunately for the moment, because you replanted, you know, some vineyard, a big part of the vineyard of Côte de Léger, because you had some section that had some disease, and you stopped making, but for a number of years, and you will again when that replanting, which we can talk about in a bit, comes back. Your Côte de Léger 350 also has a connection to the Bachelet family.
Yeah, exactly, because this cuvée is made in 350 liters barrels, and in the style I want to have, I don't like when the wood is too strong. So I asked Mark if he was happy with the size of barrel he used, so bigger size barrels finally, and he was okay to every vintage tell me 2 barrels, so that was good enough for me.
Older barrels, they were, yeah, sorry.
Also from François Frère, and these are very good barrels. And the fact is, after 4 years, you remove a lot of the wood addition to the wine.
Did you make sure it came from one of his Premier Grand Cru, or what?
Not only for the.
I'm joking. No, I was joking. That did they come from?
No, it's there is still sometimes the stickers of what was inside before, and the last one was with Folatier inside, so Pliny Premier Cru.
Pretty good.
Yeah.
Let's dive in a little bit with the first wine that we're going to taste tonight, and then I think there'll be a lot of other things we can discuss in connection to that, because it is your most important wine. And for me, I think your 19 Petit Chablis is the best version that you've made. And can you talk a little bit about where it's from and why Petit Chablis, which is an appellation that was created, I believe it was 44 with a lot of the appellation.
Yeah.
And so, but really for me at least, and I'm anxious to hear you talk about it, this is an appellation that is so much more interesting in, say, the last 5+ years than it was way back when. Can you talk about your terroir and the appellation, maybe a little bit in general?
Yeah, okay. The Petit Chablis, in fact, it's in the mind of the people. It's under the Chablis. So sometimes you can have, it's true, a wine that is a bit green and acidic, but that was true in the past. But that's not true again this recent vintages, as the global warming has really helped to improve the quality of the Petit Chablis. We get a better ripeness. And after that, we have a soil that is very rocky if you compare it to what you can have in Chablis Village and Chablis Premier Cru. And that's the interesting point. It's a terroir completely different, but it's a terroir that is interesting to work on. So to be back on the Petit Chablis I do, I'm quite lucky as I own Petit Chablis on both banks of the river in Chablis, means right bank and left bank. So on the right bank, I'm in Fier, so just above the Montée de Tonnerre, on the flatland, on the plate, and it's just on the limit. I'm a neighbor of the limit of Chablis appellation. So I'm a Petit Chablis, nearly a Chablis. And the second part...
Just before, I mean, that's really important. So you're on the Petit Chablis on the Cap Rock. You described it as it's like,
yeah.
And it's typically up above a lot of other, either the Premier Crus, in this case, it's next to a Chablis vineyard, and it's a completely different terroir. And so on that side, a lot of Petit Chablis too, it's spread out quite a bit. So your two are kind of in the heart of Chablis on both banks, where your domain is located in Milly.
We are in Milly, but the Petit Chablis, there is nearly no Petit Chablis in Milly. That's why because we are just a proprietor, we own a vineyard in Milly, but just in Chablis Village and Premier Cru, and we had to rent land to get the opportunity to do Petit Chablis, but we have to drive a bit farther than Milly. So we are in Fier, which is about 5 kilometers far from Milly, still in the heart of the appellation, so it's good. And the second part in Ben, so it's 3 kilometers from Milly, so same, not too far, and interesting to stay in the heart of the appellation.
And talk about the terroir versus the regular Chablis, the Premier Cru terroir, and Grand Cru, obviously.
So in general, the undersoil that you can find in Chablis, Premier Cru, and Grand Cru is called Quiméridien, which is very common, very well known. When you go to Petit Chablis, you change the style of undersoil and you go to a Portlandian kind of soil. So how can I describe it? The thing is that when you go to Petit Chablis, imagine that you walk in a place with only rocks on the soil, big rocks, limestone, and you will not see a lot of earth. You will not find any fossils, and the thickness of soil is not very important. You will have about 25-30 centimeters of earth, but that's it, not more. So means it's soil that is not very thick, a lot of stock of water, very hard to dig. So the vines really suffer in this kind of soil, but that's this hard condition that makes the Petit Chablis so special and interesting to work with.
Can you talk about planning some of those vineyards? Because you told me you had to get a new piece of equipment, because besides breaking, it's a place you like to say that it breaks a lot of tools. But what did you have? How about planning that site?
When we have planted one of the blocks in Fier, we had the first bad experience was when we have tried to plant the stakes to maintain the wire in the vineyard. Normally we use 1.40 meter stakes like we do usually in the rest of our vineyard, but that was impossible to plant them in the soil. The quantity of earth was not important enough, and we have to replace them by stakes of 1.30 meter. And once that was done, we saw that the soil, there is too many rocks. It's hard to even walk in. So that's the reason we have bought a tool that is not common in the rest of the vineyard in France. Basically it's a rock crusher. So you break the rocks and produce dust, but because if you let the rocks like they are, you have problem to work in this kind of vineyard, and you can break tools. So it's really important to manage this vineyard in the right way.
And they're up a little bit higher typically too. The altitude is a little bit higher in general than the average.
Yeah. We are about I will say 250 meters in average. When you are more between 180 and 200 for the Chablis Village, so you are a bit higher, and the exposition, of course, it's different because you are on a flat land, on a plate, whereas
on a plateau.
Yeah, on a plateau. And when you go to the Chablis and Premier Cru, you have a more steep, and so you can get a better exposition.
So talk about the two. You talked about a little bit about about your two parcels. Can you talk a little bit about how you see the two different parcels complementing each other?
So the two block of vine are very different. So the one I own on the right bank, so in the town of Fier, because it's at the limit with the Chablis, I always have a lot of fruit in this area. And the fruit,
why?
I think it's because it's a kind of Petit Chablis plus, because you nearly have a part of there is a part of the block of vine that is nearly Quiméridien. We see that there is a change of the soil. More we go close to the limit. And that's very different from the other part I own in Ben, which is on the left bank, and it's on the top of the Premier Cru Beaurois. And in this place, the ripeness I reach is not important as the one I have in Fier, and there is more acidity. So that's the reason I do not manage them the same way in terms of winemaking. It's really, I feel that the part of Fier, because of the fruit, I have to maintain and keep this fruit, this freshness, so I vinify it in a stainless steel tank. Whereas for the Petit Chablis from Ben, I use 350 liters barrels to ferment, age in it, and it's only after the aging of both parts that I do the blend for my cuvée of Petit Chablis.
So, and what's the percentage? Can you give us the percentage? Because it's not identical. It's not 50-50.
No, it's about 70% stainless steel tank and 30% in barrels. And,
sorry, go ahead.
The part in barrels is very interesting in terms of texture, as the Petit Chablis, because the soil is not deep as what you have in Chablis. You want sometimes add some texture, some complexity. And with the old oak barrels, you have more or less contact. You will gain in thickness of the wine. And when you blend that part with the part in stainless steel tank that have kept the straight line, the purity, you have something that is full and very complex for just a Petit Chablis.
Yeah, but to me, the amazing thing about your 19 was, you want to talk about the vintage? I mean, this is a vintage which was warm. Can you talk a little bit about the growing season and the vintage itself? Because I think the wine it belies what people might expect for the vintage.
It's 19 was like 18 in terms of conditions, with a warm summer, dry conditions, and you can imagine that in Petit Chablis, when you don't have too many soil, the vines will of course suffer from the drought, and it's
drought.
Sorry, and
that's all right. I'm just clarifying.
The thing was that after 18, we saw that you can lose a lot of acidity if you plan to harvest too late. And in 19, we really want to keep natural acidity and find a right balance for our wine. So that's the reason we have more focused on the acidity level to choose our date of harvest rather than the sugar level. It's not necessary to run after 14 degrees of potential alcohol. Why? After, it's not what I want, it's not what the people want, and I prefer to keep a good balance in the wine. We had a vintage with very good condition to work, not a lot of pressure in terms of disease. After, the difficulty now, it's manage the warm temperature and the dryness. And if you do it well, that you can do a very good wine. This dryness, this warm temperature are bad on the side, but on another point, if you compare the Chablis you can taste in the recent vintages to the one my father and my great father had produced, that was often that you can have good vintage and then lower quality vintage, but now better ripeness every vintage, chaptalization, you can forget it, and we get a good balance even for the Petit Chablis. And I'm happy to don't find again a Petit Chablis that is green and too acidic. I like to have something.
At the same time, I mean, you mentioned something that I just want to underline. You said natural acidity. If I recall correctly, you've never acidified a wine. So you're just saying you want to get that type of freshness. The thing about this wine that I think is remarkable, it's a ripe vintage. My recollection is the alcohol's
12 for the Petit Chablis. Yeah.
Which I think would shock people, because people think of 19 as having high alcohol. Down in your friends, in the Côte de Beaune, Mark and others, the alcohol is higher. I mean, that's in general. At the same time, unlike the Petit Chablis I remember from 10 or 15 years ago, this has some texture to it, as you described. there's freshness. It finishes with a kind of a salty minerality. It's not as salty as a Chablis or a Premier Cru, obviously, but I want to say that the fact as you described it, you know, you and I have walked your vineyards over in Feuilly. I mean, that is plus. That's Petit Chablis plus, as you described it. I mean, you're in the sector of some of the finest terroir in the area. As you say, you're right next to Chablis terroir, and then you're not far from some of the really, you know, what some people think are some of the finest terroirs. Monti de Tonnerre is not a long way.
Yeah, and even for the other part, we are not very far from Beauroy Premier Cru, so that's very good place, and I'm lucky to have them.
But I'm saying that I think that is where some of that added kind of texture, salinity, and kind of that length. I mean, I feel like some of that comes from there. It's a really there's a beautiful balance to this 19. Can you tell me your thoughts? I'm obviously in love with this.
Yeah, it's on the Petit Chablis 19. It's true that it's not often that we get this balance, and it's normally when you have. I was happy with the ripeness, but the level of acidity we have was higher than 18, which is good, and but not.
Nobody would believe that at the end of the day. Although 19, I shouldn't say that. 19 across actually is good acidity. That's not true. Sorry.
Yeah. No, it's a good acidity, but personally, it's the balance that do all the difference between 18 and 19. And like you said, the salinity we have on the Petit Chablis is not strong as the one we will have on Chablis and Premier Cru, but it's present, and it's really a wine that makes you feel. You really will enjoy this wine for summertime, as an aperitif. You really can drink it very easily because it's not strong in alcohol, and sometimes it's what is bad when you have a wine with a high level of alcohol. You drink one glass and you have enough, but bottle of Petit Chablis, it's easy to enjoy.
No, this is completely mouth-watering. You want to go back for more. And, you know, I know we've talked about it. You use screw cap, you know, for this wine, which I think is frankly the perfect closure for this wine. And it is, the thing I love about this is, I know you wish you had a lot of Grand Cru or, you know, but at the same time, this is a wine that we can drink every night, that is reasonably priced and is, you know, delivers so much for the money. And I think that is what people are starting to discover. The Petit Chablis isn't small Chablis. That's a different appellation. The name is maybe not the easiest for people to understand. It's not a second wine. It's a different
terroir. And like you say, it's a wine that you can drink often. It's not, of course, I'm proud of the Premier Cru I do. These are the best terroir I own. But the Petit Chablis, it's a wine that the people can drink often. And what I want to do is, even if it's not an everyday wine, but a wine that you drink often, you want to have pleasure with it. And it's not because it's the entry level of my range that I want to not give care like I do for the other level of appellation.
Can you talk to, this wine has a beautiful texture to it, has a beautiful finish. How do you do filtration? What do you do for this? Because I really feel like you've kept there's just this beautiful mouthfeel to the wine.
Yeah. The first thing is that we try to, even if it's Petit Chablis, you can do aging on it. And I prefer to do an aging a bit longer than what I did in the past, 2009 and other vintage. But what we have done also is we have changed our way to filter the wine. We have bought a new one which is called the tangential filter. So it's completely different from the other tool you can have to filter the wine. If I want just to explain it with simple words, when you use Kieselguhr or the classical filter, your wine is going like this. so you retain the big part. But when this is full of part you want to remove,
these are like an earth or some type of, like a coffee filter, but there's different types. I'm just making a simplifying it.
Yeah, and the tangential filter, finally, you use you don't add anything to the wine. It's a part in ceramic, and imagine like this, and you go parallel to this part. So it's really you remove the part you want to not keep, but at a very low speed. It's 25% of the speed of a Kieselguhr filter, but when you taste the wine before and after, nearly no difference, and that's the most important. Really be gentle with the.
Exactly, it's you've described this to me. It's a gentler type of filtration, and you've also said that with this type of filter, you set the level that you want, which is as you described it, you want the wine to stay as close to the raw material, and tank as possible. And it stays that way throughout. Whereas the other type of filtration, it gets stronger because it gets essentially full.
Yeah, exactly. They will rise up in pressure. And so if you filter at 2 bar of pressure, you will remove a lot of things on your wine. Whereas for this kind of filter, we are all the time at less than 1 bar. It's 0.6, something like this. So really low pressure, and the quality of the wine after, it's amazing. And
yeah. For me, texture is such a part of wine tasting and otherwise, and that is why, to me, this wine, as I say, the Petit Chablis of yesterday tended to be a little bit thin, and this has this beautiful mouthfeel. In any event, it's a really great wine. Bravo! We couldn't be happier to have this in the 19 vintage in general. I'm pretty excited about for what we've been tasting. It's tough right now. Usually I'd be over tasting these. I've tasted them a number of times before they arrived here in the country, but this year, because of the pandemic, haven't been able to do that. But tasting this today it's really special. Let's maybe jump to the Chablis, which is another wine that and we didn't talk a lot about it, but your property is in the tiny hamlet of Milly. So you're kind of sandwiched between Vayonne, the Premier Cru's Vayonne, and Côte de l'Eche. And what I always like to call across just a short stone's throw from Chablis itself. And I think that is the heart of the historic part of Chablis, which is very kind of important, I think, for finding some of the really top wines. So can you talk a little bit about this Chablis and its origins?
Yes, so for the Chablis, like you say, I'm very lucky to be in Milly, so it's really in the heart of the region. You are in Milly. We look in front of us. We are just in front of the Grand Cru hill, and the Chablis I do. It's coming mostly. So there is 90% of the cuvée that comes from vineyard based in Milly, and 10% from another small block of vine just below Fourchaume, Premier Cru. And
I think that, sorry to interrupt, but I think that's so important. So basically, the biggest chunk comes from a Chablis that's sandwiched between two outstanding Premier Crus, and your other one is just across the road, literally from another Premier Cru.
Yeah. The thing is that I own one big block of vine, so between Vayonne and Côte de l'Eche, which is 50 years old now, and one other big block still in Milly, just below the Premier Cru L'Hélice, in a place called Vieille Voie, and with a very interesting kind of exposition, because it's a north facing, and there is not many places classified in Chablis with north facing, and that's very good to keep the acidity when you have a very warm vintage like we had in 1819 and 20 again. But so we are on Kimerigian soil, which is very different from what we told before for the Petit Chablis with the Portlandien. So Kimerigian soil makes you will find much more clay in the soil. You can find easily some fossils, and you gain in depth of the soil. So the roots can dig very deeply, and particularly when, like me, you have very old vines, you see really that the roots go very deep, and that's an additional texture that you gain on your wine. Texture, complexity, and both are very important to do a good Chablis.
So talk about the kind of the method that you use for this, the vinification for this wine.
So in comparison with the Petit Chablis, so on the Petit Chablis, like we told, there is a part in barrels and another part in stainless steel. For the Chablis Village, it's all in stainless steel tank. The reason is that there is already the complexity, the body, the strength, and I really want to keep the purity of the fruit and keep the minerality of the terroir. So the stainless steel tank is very good. And after that, I don't do a cuvée vieille vigne. I don't want to separate the very old vines I own with the one a bit younger that I have too. And for me, a good balanced Chablis have to keep the freshness, the acidity, but also the fruit and a nice length. And when you have this good blend, you have done a good job and you have a good Chablis. And in 19, the thing is that the balance was perfect at the harvest, so that's very easy after that to do a good wine.
Can you talk about the two? I know it's the one is a small percentage, but can you talk about the two different parcels? Because I think you've explained to me, or three different parcels, that you've described how they complement each other nicely.
So the most important part, so it's a big block of vine of 2.5 hectares. So based between Vaillon and Côte de Locher. So this one is 50 years old and has a good mix in the soil between limestone and clay. So that's very interesting kind of soil, and the juice I have there is always very well balanced. The second part, Vieille Voie, which is about 40% of the blend, north facing. So the difference with the first one is that because it's north facing, I will have all the time more acidity, which is good, and it's just below l'Hélice. L'Hélice is a part with a lot of clay, so there is less limestone and much more clay. And this block is also very old, so with both of them, I already have a good basis. And the last one, so the last 10%, it's a block of vine that is situated just below the Premier Cru Fourchaume. It's a place where there is nearly no limestone, so the roots go very deep. But because it's very well situated, very good facing, south facing, I always have a nice richness, very roundness, and it's good to have this 10% in the blend to have finally something that is full-bodied and with the right balance for me.
And is having a little bit of that percentage, that north facing, is that unusual for?
It's not very common. It's even when I told you that it's just below l'Hélice and Châtain, and all this part of the hill is north facing, but the thing is that because it's the entry of the valley of Les Vaillons and the entry of the valley of Côte de Locher, it's all the time a very windy place. And with the wind, you dry the grapes, you gain in complexity, and that's very interesting to work with that place. We always have a lot of elegance in this area. But north facing, like you said, it's not very common but with the global warming, maybe these kind of places will.
Well, I think of that. I think about again. We come back to Marc and Alex Bachelet. I mean, down in Marange. I mean, there's no question that certain places where the wines, they're Fouissière, Premier Cru, where you're up on the slope. It's a cool site, or Saint-Aubin. I mean, some places that were cooler. You mentioned a wind coming through there. There's another one of your friends, Arnaud, just checked in.
Yeah.
Morte. no, I think it's very interesting to have that mix that you have because I mean, not that I know every Chablis, but to have that mix of those three different components is kind of very interesting. Can you talk a little bit about the harvest there? Because for this wine, because also here, this is another wine. I mean, like we talked about, you definitely have some more salinity in this. I mean, there's some of that sea spray, and it's definitely saltier than the Petit Chablis.
Yeah, also the thing is that the vines are older than the one I own in Petit Chablis, and we have a lot of milrandage. So milrandage, the small berries, you always have more complexity. And the thing is that in general, this the old part I own in Chablis Village, they are nearly at the perfect ripeness, the same time as the Premier Cru I own, and the only way after to maintain, to keep this complexity, this interesting aspect is to do a gentle vinification, respecting the juice and trying to keep the material, the raw material we have at the beginning, and preserve
material.
Yeah.
Just your English is perfect, but
sometimes
I can correct one word once in a while. So this is done. This is done in tank, 100%.
Yeah.
It just, I don't know. Again, the balance of these 19s is really amazing to me. The alcohol in this, I can't remember if we've already said that on this wine.
12.5.
12.5.
Yeah.
I mean, which again is kind of ideal. And with that salinity, the texture again is gorgeous. And yeah, I'm really loving these 19s. And you definitely have that component of salinity and kind of the waves coming in on the beach that there's definitely there. You want to talk about that?
Yeah, we try to. It's really the kind of flavors I like in the Chablis, and it's always the flavors I want to keep. If we choose a wrong date of harvest, if we wait too many for the ripeness, you can go on exotic fruit taste, and that's really what I want to don't have. And I prefer really to keep the, like you say, salinity, minerality, purity, crispness. It's something that you can have only if you harvest at the right stage and not too late. If it's too late, my Chablis is 14 degrees, and you don't feel that you are in Chablis when you test it. So that's very important to choose the right date.
And I mean also the tank aging, I think, and you get your complexity from that diversity of terroir that you're working with. And obviously the Kimmeridgian, base to the terroir is you've got all that, combination of marine debris and clay, and it's pretty magical. In any event, 19 is I think it surprises people, the last handful of vintages that we've had, because I feel like with 18 and even 19, with people hearing about global warming and these warm harvests, I feel like a lot of people's expectations for white wines in particular, even Chablis, is that this is a ripe vintage. They're not going to be the acidic, salty Chardonnays that we love from France. And my feeling is exactly the opposite. I really believe that you, the growers, have done this amazing job with the work in the vineyards, and as you mentioned, the harvest date. And of course, Chablis is an advantage just because it is this magical terroir. And I mean, the wines are not at all, I think, what if somebody looked at the weather report throughout the 2019 growing season, people would expect. Do you have that experience when people come to taste with you?
Yeah, exactly.
That they're surprised?
Yeah, I had the experience. Yeah, there is Alain Meadows who went at the domain just after the stop of the lockdown. He was 1 month in Chablis, and he came at the domain to taste, and we were only his second visit. And when he tasted the wines, he was totally surprised, as he thought first that in his mind the 19 will be quite similar to 18, but that's totally different. And for me, the 19 has better balance of course, because of the acidity, but also there is a dry extract, and the wine have more body, more strength, and they are very interesting. And for sure, even if they are already good and you can enjoy them from now, but I'm sure that they have a good potential for aging, particularly for the Premier Cru and Grand Cru.
So I have a question for you. We've talked a lot about the wines, and I was thinking about another one of your friends, Thierry Pillot, telling me the other day from Chassagne. I mean, the quantities in 2019, unfortunately, everything wasn't a picnic, correct?
Yeah, it was not not easy time when you see the trailer coming back from the vineyard, and you see that you just have a half bin. Yeah, it was not a big harvest, not a big crop. For us, we have lost about 20-25%, which is not too bad. It's still okay, but it's true
it's
that
worse for some of your friends in the Côte de Beaune, I can tell you.
Yeah.
Looking at some of we're some places 50%, so down. So it's so the good thing is the 19s whites are delicious. The bad thing is get your allocation quickly, because they won't.
Yeah, there is not too many. Yeah.
Well, listen, I could talk longer about some of these, but you've got some great Premier Crus.
Yep.
And the first one that I'd like to talk about is the Côte de Lachey. We talked a little bit about a wine that unfortunately for 19 isn't being produced because of the replantation of Côte de Lachey. But can you talk about your Côte de Lachey Premier Cru? Because I really think it's a great site, and I know historically it's a wine too that has an amazing aging potential. Can you give us the rundown of this wine?
So Côte de Lachey, it's an historical Premier Cru of Milly. It's a big slope, very steep. It's the place there. It's the soil is interesting as it's a good mix between clay and limestone. And my block of vine, the one there, is based in the end of the valley. So in this place, you have a forest on the bottom, and it's like an oven. It's really keep the warm in the block of vine. And the thing is that my great father has always kept this Premier Cru in his personal cellar, and I've got a lot of old bottles of it. The oldest one,
which I think I've had a number of them, thankfully.
Yeah, but we have tried some 82, 85 recently, and they still taste very well. So in this place, the root can dig very deeply because there is clay, and the thing is the south facing makes the vines are always with a good ripeness. And the block of vine I own there was planted in 63, so quite old now. And I own in the past another one which was planted in 68, but like you say, I've done a replantation this year, so it will be again in plantation in 2 years. But the style of Côte de Lachey is slightly different from the other Premier Cru I do, because you have a strong structure. Very strong, and with this structure you have a potential of aging that is huge, and you have, even if it's in its youth, a nice body, a nice roundness. For me, it's a good example of it's a good synthesis finally on the style, between the style of the left bank and the right bank. Roundness, richness, but also minerality, salinity at the end of it. So it's really wine that I enjoy.
And the age of the vines?
So from 62, it's 40, 50, it's 60 years old now. So quite old, and of course it's helped a lot to do a good wine.
It's a steep site. Can you talk about the élevage on this wine?
Yeah, so for the élevage, so I do. There is a little part of the cuvée that goes into a barrel of 350 liters. So I just do one, and the rest is going in stainless steel tank. And then after the aging, I do the blend of these two parts to do my cuvée. And in 19, the balance was perfect. The ripeness, we had 13 degrees. The same, it's not too high. It's just the right level and what I search for. And that's enough for a Premier Cru. It's not necessary to go higher.
So you've got one older, that's one of the old barrels from Mark, the 350-liter barrels from Bachelet. And then the rest of it is in tank.
Yes.
So I mean, most of it's in tank. What's the percentage in tank?
You have about 80%, 80% in tank and 20% in oak, but which is good in terms of balance. Like I say, it's important for me that when you test a Chablis wine, my Chablis, I don't want that you feel a wood influence. The wood is just here to help to develop the body of the wine, to add complexity, but you don't have to feel it in taste. It's just here for the aging and to help you.
And so that's why you're using the larger and the older, even for this tiny percentage.
Exactly.
And then the filtration is identical to the other. You're talking because the texture here is also gorgeous.
Yeah, tangential filter do a great work, and I'm very happy with it. After, it's just if you take a lot of care during the vinification, you have a very good material at the beginning. Just if you preserve it and respect it, you can have very good wine at the end.
How do you see the 19? Because, to me, this wine, I always think of aging as far as balance, that, it's not only that you have good acidity, it's that you've got everything comes together. This has texture, balance, the fruit is present, there's some ripeness. You still have that kind of salty finish. How do you see this in the context of aging? Because as you said, you've got some experience with old bottles. How does the 19 vintage stack up in those terms in your mind?
Personally, I think we have a very good potential for aging. Maybe not strong as the 14 or 17, but the thing is we have structure, we have acidity, we have a very good pH. And the thing is that the wines of Chablis, because they are mainly done in stainless steel, they get the full potential for aging, as they finally they are not in contact with air too many. So you really have a wine that is strong for long aging. And even on the warm vintage in the past, we still have some bottle in the cellar, and when you test it, you are really surprised with the time. As in the youth of the wine, it's often that you feel more the vintage effect, but more you wait, more the terroir is going in front, and you will have again minerality, salinity that develop. That's the interesting part in the Chablis wine.
So a lot of the old bottles that you've had of this wine, are they from vintages that would have been considered warm vintages, or stylistically? Because I just am curious, because I think people are surprised sometimes that a lot of the even whites from warm vintages often hold up very, very well.
It's an example is my great father has kept some vintage 76, which was also a very warm vintage, but at this period he was already using a stainless steel tank to do his wines. And the thing is the wine is still alive and not fresh as what you can have when you have a perfect balanced vintage. But for 76, it was quite interesting to taste. And it's not because it's a warm vintage that you don't have a potential for aging. 19 is really the perfect example for that.
Interesting. So we've got one more wine that I don't have, unfortunately, because we don't have any here. The Vaillant. I'm out of stock at the moment, and I really want to talk about that before we have to get off shortly. Because I think it's interesting to compare the Vaillant and the Côte de Lachey side by side in some ways, because they are different terroir. Can you talk about your Vaillant and talk about the difference between it and the Côte de Lachey?
So for the Vaillant, Vaillant is a different Premier Cru. It's still in Milly, but it's a parallel valley to Côte de Lachey. But the difference is that there is a different kind of exposition. At the entry of the valley, you are north-facing with Châtain and Lélis, and more you go in the valley, more you go southeast and south nearly at the end. So for the cuvée I do of Vaillant, I own 2 blocks of vine. So one at the end of the valley in a place called Beugnon, so which is 60% of the blend, southeast facing with a lot of limestone and very interesting in terms of complexity. And the other part, it's in Châtain, so the entry of the valley, north facing with a lot of clay. And this part is interesting to keep the acidity, particularly like we said before in the warm vintage. And so for 40%. And the blend of these two do really a good wine. After, if I have to compare it with Côte de l'Ocher, in Vaillon, you get all the time more salinity, more minerality, and that's the reason for that for me is that there is more clay, particularly in the part in Châtain. And this kind of wine, when you have more salinity in the wine, I like to match it with sushi, for example. Whereas for the Côte de l'Ocher, with a more roundness, more structure, prefer to match it with a white meat in sauce or this kind of food. And it's really two different styles of wine. We say more salty character on the Vaillon and more structure and roundness on the Côte de l'Ocher.
Is there any difference in the élevage between the Vaillon and the Côte de l'Ocher, or you think that's 100% based on the different kind of terroir and of the two different wines?
Personally, I'm pretty sure that the vinification is quite the same as the Côte de l'Ocher, but the terroir is very different. You can think when you see those two, they are not very far. In Milly, you turn to the left, you see Vaillon. On the right, you see Côte de l'Ocher. But it's so different. The soil, it's like veins. You have places with in Châtain, it's white clay. It's very the first years of the vines. You have the impression that the vine will die because the roots have problem to dig in, but then when the first stage of clay, the vines, the roots go through, the vines get healthier, and it's good to have clay, to have stock of water.
I'm thinking though, I have to say, I'm thinking of, I was with Harman and Elia and taking out these big chunks of the Kimmeridgian, the fossil, chunks of those, they're like little, and in fact, I think one of them got stopped at the airport because they took a little piece to show somebody had asked to see a little bit. But so you've got that great mix in Vaillon that is kind of a perfect, it really is a great place, and your vines are so healthy there.
I'm happy with that, and it's also the thing is that we have done a try in the Châtain part, so the part north facing, means the traditional density of plantation in Chablis, it's 5,500 plants per hectare, and we did an experimentation with raising up the density to 8,000, and we do only Guyot pruning, so just with one branch, to have less quantity of grapes on each plant of vine, but having more complexity. And the thing is that it's quite working very well for the moment, and I'm happy with it, and that's the reason I prolonged the experimentation now in Côte de l'Ocher to see if it's works the same way.
For some of your new plantation?
Yeah, exactly.
We didn't talk about the alcohol on the Vaillon was how much?
13. Same
13. So so basically those wines, the difference in taste, the alcohol, literally identical pretty much across the board. And again, I just want to underline, I really feel like one of the reasons your 19s are so balanced, you were part of, as you described it, you weren't alone, obviously. There's a lot of very good growers, but you were part of the first wave of growers to harvest to make sure to get that, as you described it to me, that freshness and salinity that you're looking for. So
it's important to focus to keep the acidity. We never acidify, but we all the time want to reach the ripeness that is good for the style of wine we want to have at the end. So when it's the moment, our method is that we try to harvest as quick as possible, because when it's ripe somewhere, sometimes you can be sure that the rest is nearly at the right stage too. And if you need too many time to harvest, you will finally harvest a very good Premier Cru, but your Petit Chablis is it's too late. So in 19, we have started the 11th of September, and we were not the first to start, but we were among the first wave to go to the harvest, and I'm very happy to take this decision for this vintage. And,
so are we, and then the people who taste the wines will be. Vincent, I so appreciate you coming on. I look forward at some point to getting back. Things are a little bit complicated in the world at the moment, but it was a pleasure to be able to spend some time and talk through. And thanks for your insight into the wines. And say hi to your lovely wife Emily. And I appreciate you staying up so late to talk with us.
No problem.
Have a great evening, and I look forward to seeing you soon.
Thank you.
Take care.
Bye-bye.
Bye.